Okay, it looks like Instagram is working. Well, we're having trouble starting. Oh, of course, of course. We can't do this unless we have trouble. Okay, there we go. There's no more trouble, right? All right, cool. There we go. Yep. Good morning, everyone. Swaddy Cup. And good evening, everyone. Swaddy Cup. Namaste. Namaskar. And aloha to the world. Um, it is Sunday Night Live if you're in one part of the world, and it's Monday Morning Live. So let's get going. Good morning, Nicole. I'm glad Nicole's here. Otherwise, uh, so here we are. Yeah, of course, these glasses are like. Anyway, you guys, I'm sure you're all you're all aware of the things that are happening in the world. It's like we're just sitting here. We're just sitting here like sharing our demise. It's crazy. Are we gonna like do something, or are we just gonna say, "Oh, now we can't do that. Now we can't do this." Oh, and when we go to the airport, they do this to us. Huh? Did you know when you get in those, when you go through those boxes, now it looks like that our buddy Elon teamed up with those guys that like to inject people with what they call the ability to immunize, and somehow that just might be another way of doing it. So, I guess he might not just be. He just might not be one of those just really cool, eccentric kind of guys, right? He just might be on that side of things. Anyway, I mean, so I just the reason I'm bringing this up and I can't help it is because by this time next year we won't be able to do this, and we won't be able to do this perhaps in 6 months. That's why. I mean, that's one reason. But if this is gone, imagine what else is gone. So I mean, come on, um, should we just pretend like it's not happening? It's just that's not happening. Because why? Well, I don't want it to happen, so it's not happening. Yeah, all right, it's not happening. Got that. It's not happening. Everything's fine. Everything's cool. Moving. Don't worry. Not gonna happen. I mean, how could something like that happen? It's not happening. Oh, you can't hear. Oh, okay. Can you all hear? Can everybody hear? How about on YouTube and all that? Facebook, you can hear? Yeah. Yeah. No, no, no. TikTok can hear? TikTok can hear. TikTok can hear. Okay, cool. All right. And you guys can hear, right? Instagram. Yeah. Okay. You can hear, right? Good. Okay, cool. Let me turn off the air conditioning because it's loud. Not that I don't need it. Oh, So, by the way, if you ever come to Thailand, don't eat these red peppers. Completely addicting. So anyway, spicy, very good. Okay, cool. So here we are. So anyway, last week's member Zoom recordings, PowerPoints, and summaries are available in your membership. Okay, so last week you were, those of you who attended, we had on the health and healing group, we had intermittent fasting. What is it, and what is fasting, and and what are some of the benefits with regards to health and longevity and getting rid of, helping to resolve chronic conditions. And then in the CFC group, what situations really require surgery? What are the effects of surgery? When should I get surgery? And if I have to get it, what should I do? So this week, the parasite group, we're going to talk about the truth about ivermectin. Basically, all that information. Recently, this has been come up from, what's his name? Is it McCullough? I don't know. One of the guys that's one of the doctors that's really been quite vocal and informative, has a lot of credibility, is starting to say that it's horrible. It's horrible, and that it has that ivermectin has fertility produces fertility issues. So I wanted to just give you my perspective and what I found in research. Is that my perspective? It's just what I found in research, because how could I have an opinion on something? Well, there's a very important point. You can only have an opinion about something that you don't know. But if you know about something, it's not an opinion any longer, right? You don't have an opinion on addition and subtraction, right? It's not an opinion. You don't have an opinion on algebra. You don't have an opinion on, if you're a mechanic, on how to change a carburetor. It's not an opinion, right? For me, changing a carburetor, I wouldn't even have an opinion. But the point is, if you don't know something, you have an opinion. If you know something, it's not an opinion. You know something. Okay. So anyway, I will tell you the research on ivermectin, what I see. So, by the way, I wouldn't. It's a problem. By the way. Same time, right? And right. And my reminder to you that, why are you asking that question? And think about it. We'll talk about it. All right, so let's get started. And the usual stuff, only Twitter or X, whatever it is, Elon Musk, the great masquerader, the great, what is he? He's got everyone fooled. Apparently, I mean, if he's doing, you can't, right? You can't, listen, you can't do something that's evil and something that's not, or good, and conclude that your net effect is good. Even though I don't think good and evil, anyway, I can't take you guys down those long rabbit holes. But anyway, I'm just saying, Twitter at Dr. Thomas Lodi MD, and then all the rest, Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, everything else is at Dr. Thomas Lodi. Okay, yeah. And so we're going to go over questions. All right. So remember, great, you can hear me. Thank you. Yay, beautiful. Facebook, Dana, Amy, yay. And you guys are there. Okay, so I'm going to talk about some stuff today. So remember, these Sunday Night Lives, which are going to remain as long as we are permitted access to these kinds of things. And you send in questions prior, and theoretically, I'm supposed to be able to read them first and have some, just so I know a direction but I don't always get around to that. So, but anyway, it doesn't matter. And then on the other ones, the ones that we do live, that with the membership, you're going to be asking the questions as they arise from, whatever. You might have a question already in your mind, and you might and one might arise from what we talk about, right? And each week I want to talk about something that's just I think relevant, that we should all know about that particular subject. And just as a little bit, I'm going to try to make it 15-20 minutes so that we can have a lot of time for spontaneous interaction. Okay? Yeah. Come on. Why do you have to do that? Okay. Is there can we put it down here? We can put it down there. Up there. And there's that, and then there's that, and then there's that. Okay. No. There we go. Okay. All right. Cool. Now, so the questions first. Sleep. These are questions submitted to the website. Sleep. It says, this is Logan, having trouble falling asleep. It takes hours. What brand of melatonin do you suggest? I have taken some before, but it causes me to have nightmares. I don't I don't know if that's because I'm taking the wrong kind or not. I only take a small dose, 1 milligram, and a max of 5 milligrams, depending on which one I buy. But both doses cause me to have nightmares. Is there something else I could take to help with falling asleep? I've also tried magnesium lotion, but it doesn't always work. I already do all the good sleep hygiene things. I don't watch TV to go to bed. I don't eat or work in bed. Get up early, set my alarm and my phone prior to lying down. And don't use my phone after I lie down. I'm desperate, though. I would appreciate help. All right, very good. Logan, so and everyone who's interested, which is all of us, sleep. We've got to do like a complete webinar on sleep. Sleep is just profound. Anyway, and a lot of people are having trouble sleeping, right? But that's not what melatonin is. It's not a sleep aid. Although it helps you sleep, definitely, it's got many other very important things. So we're going to have to figure out what's going on with you, because you got to take it. Okay. So, are there other alternatives to helping you sleep? First of all, sleep issues can be that you have trouble falling asleep, or you have trouble, or you wake up, or you can fall asleep and then you wake up frequently, like to go to the bathroom, but when you come back, you can't fall asleep that easily. There's that. So there's all and then there's some people can't have trouble falling asleep and staying asleep. So one thing you want to always confirm or check out is whether or not you're having if there's any like biological reason for it. And one very probably overlooked is having adrenal problems. So normally the adrenal gland produces cortisol early in up spikes around 7 or 8 a.m. and then goes down slowly throughout the day and reaches its nadir at or its perigee at around 4 or 5, and then it slowly comes back up, and then around 12:30 a.m. it starts to go back up again, right? And that's kind of the general cycle. But if you've been stressed and you've been stressed out either physically and or psychologically, then your adrenal gland may be in trouble, worn out, tired, and it doesn't have the reserves, and it can't get started, and so you have it's low AM cortisol, and then it builds up slowly into the evening, right? And so if your cortisol is high, you can't sleep, and so that's one thing you want to check and confirm. And your thyroid is another one you want to check and confirm that you don't have too much thyroid, or you're not taking thyroid in the afternoons, or thyroid medication in the afternoons, like that. Okay. Um, but assuming all that's done, then the next thing with sleep, you want to make sure that you clear your mind before you sleep, and you're doing some really good things. So, but you turn off all electronics, you sit down, get a pen and paper, and you write down everything that you did today and that you didn't do today, and everything that you need to do by this week, and everything, and you like just kind of, and how are you going to solve this, and put everything in the categories. And if you can do all that, which I don't, and I should, but if you can do all that, then you've kind of emptied your mind. You've done a mind enema. So now you can go to sleep, and that stuff that won't come up for the most part. And of course, room is cool. Got to be cool, because you need to be having a blanket or holding. We need that touch. We need that. That's what we need. And dark, very dark. Wear an eye mask. Put in earplugs. You'd be surprised if you put earplugs in and wear an eye mask that it really helps. In terms of aids, a lot of people use cannabis to help them. Now, if you look at the studies, I mean, from my experience with the people that come to me that I work with, like I've never had anyone tell me it doesn't work. Everyone says it works good. It helps them sleep, and they sleep great. But if you look at the research, you got to wonder, there's research where, are they trying to prove a point, or are they like really, is it real? Because I think they have agendas, so, because I've never had anybody say to me, I can't sleep. I take this cannabis and I can't sleep. Everybody says I go to sleep. Sometimes I can't wake up because I took so much, right? So, but the studies that I've been reading, CBD alone, or in equal amounts of THC, both have work. This is from a meta-analysis where they looked at many research studies, many clinical trials, and drew some conclusions. I don't know. I don't know if I believe. I don't know if I can believe research anymore. First of all, who paid for it? Number two, who's on the editorial board that accepted it, and why did it get accepted and this one didn't? There's so many things. And then, how could it be? How could you prove something that? I've worked with literally thousands of people who've taken it for sleep, and it works. So anyway, that's what I would say. Now, so you can get that, but remember, when you're using any cannabis product, you gotta make sure that it's coming from an organic source, because of the like the original experience in Colorado, which I think was the first state to make it recreational. All the people that farmed it were trying to get theirs to the market quicker, so they were using tons of pesticides. So you got to make sure you don't have, that's what you got it. The amount of pesticides that are probably going to be in cannabis that you buy at the dispensary is going to be extremely high, unless you for sure it's organic. Okay, so be careful of that. I'm serious. The smoking would be better, quicker than the eating. The eating takes a while, and you actually get less. The smoking is immediate because it goes through the lungs and right into the bloodstream. And you can get a good, strong, powerful one, and use a vaporizer so that you're not getting the, carbon monoxide and other things that happen from combustion. You don't need combustion. So sorry for being tired, but now you're talking about bad dreams. This is bad dreams, right? Now, nightmare. Okay, so a nightmare is different. All right, so nightmares, they wake you up usually. I mean, not usually. That's part of the definition. All right, and you got to remember there's something called vivid dreams, and then there are lucid dreams, right? So a vivid dream is kind of like all it means really is that it's like watching, you know, a high definition movie. You can see everything. It's vivid. All right, and it feels real, and you're not aware that you're dreaming. Whereas lucid dreams, you realize you're dreaming, and it's the lucid dreams that you can actually have some control over what happens in the dream, in a lucid dream. All right. So in a vivid dream, um, it's just you're remembering. And what is a vivid dream? It's just one that you remembered. Right. So if you think that you don't dream, it's because you're either waking up in a non-REM, non-dream cycle, or that's usually it. Or you could have woken up at the end of a REM, rapid eye movement, which means dreaming, which is the physical correlate of dreaming. You could have woken up near the end of it, and it wasn't um, that you weren't that attached to it. It wasn't such a important thing. It didn't have any emotional content, so you just don't remember it. It doesn't mean you're not dreaming, because if you don't dream, you're going to be extremely irritable, angry. You won't have any patience for anything, and so so unless you're screaming at flies that are in the house and things like that, then you're probably dreaming, and you just don't recall it. Okay. Now, so melatonin. Now, on the other hand, so here's the thing about melatonin. All right, it is absolutely essential. It's not. You got to think. One of the things it does is help with this, manage the circadian rhythm, which has and that aspect of circadian rhythm is the sleep. It initiates it. Okay, but that's not all it does. Remember, it's made by the pineal gland, so it's a neurotransmitter. So there's an amino acid called tryptophan. Okay, so tryptophan gets converted into serotonin, which is a neurotransmitter, but it also is associated with depressants tend to enhance the amount of serotonin that's around. Now, the interesting thing is that 90% of the serotonin in our bodies is made in our gut by microorganisms. So therefore, taking an antibiotic, do you realize taking an antibiotic, just one course of antibiotics, is going to decrease the output by 25%. And a lot of people are on more than one course. One course, what is one course? We're talking about usually one course is 7 to 10 days oral of whatever the antibiotic is, right? When you're talking about in-hospital antibiotics, that's IV, that's a whole different thing. But and that'll have an effect. But actually, think about it. When you take it orally, you're actually dropping them right down there on your microbiome. All right, so that's not. So just think about that. But anyway, so one of the ways I mean, I know I'm sidetracking again. It's just how can you not, when things lead? That's the way. Anyway, so serotonin, which is required for our being like feeling good about moving on, and you know uh, motivated, optimistic, all that sort of thing, is a biochemical mediator of that uh, subjective feeling. And so most of it is made in our gut, and so therefore we want to have a good gut biome. You know what you're going to notice? Whatever you study and think about, that always comes back to the gut. It's amazing. It's amazing. So that always, and the gut, and what determines the microbiome um, what determines the relative proportions of the different microorganisms in the gut that are responsible for most of our life? The food we eat. Oh, yeah. Mm. So how important is that? Well, listen. But one of the things I've got to do is I keep saying this, but I've got to make a food. I don't know, webinar. Maybe it's got to be in two parts or whatever, because it's such an important um, issue. Shall we call it central? Because the GI tract is central and it affects everything. And if it's messed up, everything's messed up. And if it's fine, everything's fine. How important is that? Okay. Now, the other thing is, what else is important about the GI tract? This tube that starts with the lips and ends at the anus. What else is important? What you're putting in it, right? Yes. And the other one is obviously, is the other end moving? Are you getting it out, or is it building up? So there's an old expression that you are what you eat, and that's only half true, because you are what you eat and what you don't excrete. Yeah. So yeah. And by the way, what you eat has a tremendous effect or on your ability to eliminate. By the way, if anyone knows of a constipated raw vegan, please have them contact me. I can't imagine it. Or even a vegan. Yeah, I can't say that, because you can be. Unfortunately, a lot of people that are vegetarian are really pastatarian or breaditarian or whatever, some sort of So yeah. So mm. Anyway, when you're eating human food, things move. So, we'll get into human food later. Okay, vivid dreams, lucid dreams, melatonin, all that sort of thing, right? So now, by the way, where do they get the melatonin that they're putting in, that you're taking into your supplements, right? Well, they can either be synthetic, or they can come from an animal. They take it from the animal's pineal gland. Now, I just wouldn't recommend that myself, just because I don't know that animal, the condition of the animal, right? And it's one thing, in naturopathy, there's a lot of glandulars used. So it's one thing to, use glandulars from. I've always had a hard time with it myself. I personally couldn't do it, but thyroid, adrenal glandulars, there's all sorts. But again, when we're getting into the brain, we all remember Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease, Creutzfeldt-Jakob, also called, what else did they call it? Mad cows. Well, Creutzfeldt-Jakob was Jacob. See, there was actually a tribe. Where was the tribe? God, New Guinea. Anyway, they ate each other. Not in a nice way, not in a fun, exciting way, but ate each other. And they had a condition called kuru, Kuru. And kuru is, I'm sorry for segueing, but I can't help it. Kuru is what they later came to know as prion mediated problems. Prions. Some prions, whoa, what are they? They're not, it's not really defined. They're proteins, they're associated with Alzheimer's, but anyway, they're associated with mad cows disease, that they called it, disease quotes. And the mad cows was from eating cows. And that's because when they kill the cows for you to eat, when they kill the cows in these slaughterhouses, and they shoot this air, sort of like an air gun at their head to knock them out before they kill them, just so, because they're being kind. They don't want them to experience. And that's actually better, because kosher and halal both require that the animal be wide awake at the moment of murder, at the moment they're dead, being killed. It requires that. I'm serious. You can look at halal laws and you can look at kosher laws. They require that the animal be conscious. And but the other non halal, non-kosher uh, slaughterhouses use this powerful thing, air gun. Maybe they have something different now that knocks the animal unconscious before they kill him. And that's so powerful, actually, that they have found in the when they've ground up the corpse. The animal dies, and they let blood comes out. And I'll take the organs, and then they grind up the muscles and other organs stuff to make hamburger. They actually find brain tissue in there. Yeah. And so that might have had something to do with what they called mad cows. Anyway. So I would stay away from any melatonin that was animal based. Now, it is in foods. It's not usually strong enough to, you'd have to, eat a lot. But, things like pistachios and cherries, if they're tart, a lot of mushrooms do, tomatoes, walnuts, almonds, hazelnuts, what else? Pumpkin seeds. Yeah. So that pumpkin seed butter that I love from Omega Nutrition, check it out. Raw pumpkin seed butter. If anyone's ever liked peanut butter, you're going to replace it. You're going to say, wow, because peanut butter is cooked. Has to be. Have you ever eaten a raw peanut? You ever try eating raw peanut butter? Right? Yeah, so it's got to be roasted, which is a good thing, I guess, because there's a fungus that grows on peanuts producing aflatoxin, which causes liver CFC. So it might be a good idea to cook them if you're going to eat them. But remember, peanuts are not nuts, right? They're legumes like lentils, like any kind of bean. And so they are... but if you grew up in America, I'm not sure about Europe. If you guys had a lot of, if you ate peanut butter the way we do in America, I don't know if these people still do, but yeah, grow up peanut butter sandwiches and stuff. Anyway, this pumpkin seed butter from Omega Nutrition, because I've had pumpkin seed butter out of various sources, and they just it's not really this good, but this stuff is like, whoa. Dip apple, dip carrot, dip anything you want in it, and it's great. And then you're trying to eat healthy and all that, and starting to get hungry, you're going to walk out the door, grab a couple tablespoons of it, just eat it, and you'll be fine. You're not going to eat. You're going to be okay. You can go do what you need to do. Yeah. But anyway, so those are them. And then, and salmon, if you're still eating dead fish, then salmon's got melatonin. Yeah. Or something that can be turned into it. Now, some of the supplements will use plant-derived, and what they get is actually from rice, alfalfa, and chlorella. There's something called herbatonin. Yeah, and in fact, there are products now that have that are herbatonin. All right, and so. And I'm going to get more into. I think we need to do a whole webinar on melatonin, because it's so vast. But I want you to understand how important it is. So I understand, Logan, you're having trouble sleeping. We want to take care of that. So you can use cannabis. You can use you guys help me out here. What's that? It's a root. They use it in. I was in Vanuatu. They had like these dark, like coffee shops, but all the lights were off. I mean, it was like really dark, and they were drinking this kava. Is it kava? Right. I guess if you drink a lot of it, you get paralyzed. But I went in there to drink some. Of course, you got to try it, right? And I hated it. I hated it because and then I woke up in the morning. I felt horrible. Anyway, kava. If you get a little bit of kava, though, they use it for sleep. And then there are other. You can look in. You can look up online. There's all sorts of plant derived substances that'll make you sleepy. Um, but melatonin is not that. I mean, melatonin will help you go to sleep. It should, but you shouldn't be getting these side effects. So the problem, and you see, you couldn't get a side effect actually from melatonin since it's a natural substance that's required in our body, right? You can't, Um, but you get it. What the problems that come from taking melatonin are not are from the substances that are non-melatonin that are in there, right? So they use fillers and excipients, right? Like lactose, magnesium stearate, silicon dioxide, right? All of those cause gastrointestinal problems, allergic reactions, um, and those are not always completely disclosed on the label. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Can you believe it? They might not disclose everything. I'm sure they don't. Um, and then they have binders and coatings, right? Right. So and the bindings are usually some sort of bizarre chemical modification of cellulose, which is plants, right? And that just helps hold the plant together, right? It's a binder, it keeps it together, right? But those cause GI issues, diarrhea, nausea, and stuff like that. And then the coatings, again, more bizarre derivatives of cellulose from plants, but also they use polyethylene glycol, which you don't want. Okay, preservatives, antioxidants, they use potassium sorbate, potassium benzoate, BHT, lot of stuff. And then you've got different manufacturers who have different, what do we call it? Different quality of manufacture. So when you're getting melatonin, what are you getting, right? And that's what we have to do. So that's what we have to know in any supplement. We've got to know, what are we getting? I mean, you got to know the company. Do they have, is it, or are they starting with organic material? And then how do they process it? What do they add to it? Are they heating it up really high? Because if they're heating up any natural substance high, it's going to no longer be what it was. It changes. Heat is called an endothermic chemical reaction, and an endothermic chemical reaction is probably most of chemistry. I mean, yeah. There's exothermic, where you put two things together and they explode. Exothermic, the heat comes out. Endothermic means you need the heat to go in order to change the bonds, and so it's an endothermic chemical. So when you're heating up a substance, you're changing. So that's what you want to know. Did they start out with organic material? How are they? Are they using? Is it cold processing or heat processing? If it is heat, how high? I mean, we got to do these questions. We got to ask these questions because it's called vetting. We have to vet these because why? Because we're taking it for a purpose, and we want to make sure we're getting what we think we're getting, so that we can achieve the purpose that we're looking to achieve. All right. I mean, it can say melatonin, or it can say vitamin C, or it can say whatever it can say, but is it really? How do we know? And therefore, you want certificates of analysis. You want third-party verification that that's what you got. Third party means this guy over here. There's the other thing. Make sure they don't know each other and they're not paying each other. Make sure it's truly a third party who just doing their job of, and usually the way you check out whether or not something is real or not on a molecular level is called mass spectrometry. Okay. And it's a way of looking at the actual molecules, right? What's there? What are molecularly, what's there? So anyway, that's all very, very important, and keep that in mind. So the nightmares, the other thing about nightmares, keep in mind that you are, what you want to realize is that the things that contribute to like vivid dreams, and nightmares are stress, anxiety, trauma, including post-traumatic stress syndrome. And as I've told you before, when you've been diagnosed with CFCs, you not only have post-traumatic stress disorder, you have current traumatic stress disorder. So it's like much worse. All right, so there's no. That's why we got to look at your adrenals. We got to straighten everything out. We can't ignore that. Uh, incredible, incredible effect. The psychoneuroimmunological effect. All right, so I mean, that's the other thing. So if you're having nightmares easily provoked, you've got a lot of stuff in there that is probably being suppressed that you don't want suppressed. You want it to come out. This is repressed psychological pus. It's an abscess. And you got to squeeze that pimple. And the way we squeeze it gently is by dreaming. We've got to dream it out. Dreaming. That's why the two parts of sleep are restorative sleep, restoring the body, and dream, restoring the mind. Because the mind, the only way you can restore it is to clean it out. How do you restore the body? You clean it out, and then it'll take care of itself. And then the mind, you just clear it out. Okay, because the mind otherwise is empty. And it's not self-restoring. It's a whole different thing. So, but anyway, dreaming is important. If a nightmare is going to come out, or a vivid dream, or people don't usually wake up during vivid dreams, is it? Because a vivid dream can be pleasant or unpleasant. Anyway, so there's something in there that's got to come out. You got to get it out. So dreaming's got to happen. So if you're not sleeping, then of course that's one thing. You're not able to dream. You're not able to dream. You're not able to empty your mind. You got to empty your mind. So we got to get you sleeping. But that has nothing to do with, very little to do with melatonin. Okay, because again, what is melatonin? Okay, it was made by the pineal gland. It's actually N-acetyl methoxytryptamine. Tryptamine, methoxytryptamine. I'll talk about that later. And it's produced in mammals. It's produced by the pineal gland, but it's also it's in bacteria, fungi, algae, plants, and reptiles, amphibians, fish. They all make this, okay? And in every case, it's derived from the amino acid tryptophan. And the first step in the metabolism of tryptophan is serotonin. And then when the lights go out, it's melatonin time. All right? Period. All right? So that's how it works. Now, we know that when melatonin is secreted, produced, it also causes to be released a substance in our posterior pituitary gland. Pituitary gland hangs. It's a little gland that hangs off the bottom part of the brain near the hypothalamus. The hypothalamus below the thalamus. Thalamus is in the midbrain, so hypothalamus. So the posterior pituitary has a few hormones, not like the anterior pituitary, which has many more. But the posterior pituitary has one that's relevant to what we're talking about now. It's called vasotocin. So vasotocin is actually made in the hypothalamus, and then it's transported to the posterior pituitary where it's stored. Okay, so melatonin stimulates vasotocin release, and vasotocin is a protein that regulates our REM sleep, rapid eye movement. Right, so that's how melatonin affects sleep. Right, so it's going to make you dream, because you got to dream, and the more you dream, the more likely you're going to have a vivid a vivid dream that may be pleasant or unpleasant. Now remember, you got to dream it anyway. You got to get it out, because if you don't get it out, it will damage you. It will damage you. It's just like keeping a serious secret damages you. I mean, kind of like, it's like a lie. It's a lie. So if you're lying to somebody who's very important to you, like a child, a spouse, a parent, a boss, a good friend, right? And little white lies, like the hell has a really cute blouse when you know it's not a cute blouse, according to your opinion. But anyway, that's not it. But when you're you've got um, a spouse that you have um, take taken a vow to just hang out with each other in certain areas. It's interesting. So it's always sex, but but it's sex. Yeah, you can go have dinner with other people. You can have breakfast with other people. You can go to, but no sex. Anyway, but if it's something important to you, something serious, and you've decided, and then you're violating that. That is gonna kill you if you don't. That old there's um a Christian um what's the word? Is it a tradition? Maybe of confessing. Confess ye one to another. Why do we confess? What's the value of confessing? The value is that you get it out of you. You get it out of you. You got to get it out of you to kill you. It will kill you. If you're holding on to any of this stuff, it will kill you. So confess it. It's better to just tell the truth of some. I'm deep. I mean, a deep thing. Yeah, there's going to be consequences, and it's going to be a problem. But if you don't, the problem could be that you die. So it's that serious. So, yeah. Anyway, now, by the way, everyone's heard of dimethyltryptamine, which is ayahuasca, and we talk about ayahuasca as being it's a transcendental type of experience. From what I hear from the um, from the shamans, is that it lifts the veil between the living and the dead. All right, it lifts the veil between the living and the dead. And it's a very important. So people go down to Central America, South America, and they meet in Ecuador, in Brazil, and probably lots of those countries. And you got to find a guy that's been in the jungle. They never leaves the jungle. They're pretty much that's where they grew up and live. And they actually go up to the plant and they ask permit. They only take at max 3 people, and they ask permission from the jungle. And if the jungle says no, they got to come back the next day. And then they mix these 2 plants and they have this experience. That dimethyltryptamine is also made in the pineal gland. Okay, right. And then if you remember, if you understand that melatonin is N-acetyl-methoxytryptamine, dimethyltryptamine is just so the pineal gland makes epithalin, which is very important. It's kind of we'll talk. It kind of controls the melatonin process. The melatonin is basically in charge of the circadian rhythm, right? Your circadian rhythm is what again? The circadian rhythm is our relationship with the earth. We have a rhythmic relationship with the earth and the sun. Okay. So now the earth turns on its axis, but okay, even I guess if it's flat, if the earth is really flat, then maybe there's just this flat disk turning, whatever. It's turning, okay? Whatever. 23 hours and 56 minutes is one complete revolution. And that's one day. Now, we have a relationship with that. We have a new biological day every day. Mm-hmm. So, anyway, so melatonin, epithalin actually coordinate that. All right. Now, but again, as I said, it's the vasotocin that is in posterior pituitary that the melatonin induces to be released that increases REM sleep. And the more REM sleep, the more likely you're to have vivid dreams, and the more likely you're to have maybe every kind of dreams. But you got to dream. Remember that by the Everly Brothers? Dream. A great song. I don't think it had anything to do with what we're talking about, but So now I want to go back for a second about Logan about this, and I know I've taken a long time on this. You guys, give me a break because this is why I am. I'm just gonna do this. I can't be like. Otherwise, there's no sense of us talking. I just write it all out. But this is how it goes this way. All right. Now, I'm going back to the fact that when you're getting a melatonin capsule, tablet, whatever it is how much melatonin is in there? And where'd you get that melatonin from? All right. So there is, at the Tokyo Medical and Dental University in Japan, they did a study and they looked at all these different supplements. And they found out that it was amazing how different it was, right? In terms of what do you call it? Of the constituents. I'm sorry. It was the Journal of Pineal Research. I'm sorry. It was the Journal of Pineal Research, right? And what they found was incredible. It varied from like 478% more than they said. Let's say they said there was 1 milligram, 478% more, down to like a minus 87%, like didn't have it in there. That's how much it varied, right? It's crazy. But what was interesting is that they found that the most variable we're like most variable meaning, wow, this could have 1% of what they're saying or 400% of what they're saying, were the chewable ones. And the least variable were the sublingual. And we're still talking about tablets. Yeah. Not a sublingual liquid. Turns out the liquid is really hard because the other thing about melatonin is that it's easily degradable. So you can't use the liquid ones unless they've come up with something, right? Okay. But so that, anyway, there's a pretty good study in this, right? And anyway, but the Tokyo Medical and Dental University, with the school, they were looking at the effect of melatonin and its metabolites. Okay, so it's got two important metabolites, right? And one of them is the one that they found is directly related to sleep. Okay, and it's called N-acetyl methoxy kynuramine. Now, kynuramine is, and maybe we should go through this one day, but it's one of the pathways when tryptophan can go down into making serotonin and melatonin, or it can go off this way. And we're designed to do that. But that has a tremendous effect on our immune. I mean, it can shut down things. We way at some point. But in any case, for now, so it was. In case, right? Oh, and anyway, and it's pretty amazing. They did it with mice, and they took these mice, and rats, when they're healthy, they will, if there's two objects there, one they already know about, they learned, one they didn't, they're going to investigate the one they didn't. And think about the mouse's life. They're always like checking stuff out, and if it's something unfamiliar, they're going to check it out and find out if it's okay. It makes sense, right? So even in a laboratory setting, that's what they do. So they're going to pay attention to unfamiliar objects. So that's pretty interesting. So they did that test, and they said, let's see what happens if we. So in other words, that's a way of testing memory, right? Because if they put an unfamiliar substance and a familiar, and they go to the unfamiliar, then that means they remembered this, so it's familiar. So that's what they did. And so they found that they took the younger mice, they exposed the object, some object to them 3 times a day. And they gave them these metabolites. But the older mice, it didn't affect. They were going, the familiar object, unfamiliar, they didn't, because they weren't making enough melatonin, right? The older. Okay, so anyway, when they took these older ones and they gave them a dose of the AMK 15 minutes after exposure to an object, the older mice was able to remember it up 4 days later. What does that mean? That means that melatonin actually helps consolidate memories. You had an experience, you learned something. Now let's get it from the short-term memory into the long-term memory, so it's part of your uh, memory bank that you can access when you need. Okay. And so, and in fact, when we think of cognitive impairment, we're thinking about the fact that how good is your memory, right? Basically, I mean, it's not only memory, but it's also, that's not all that cognition is. Cognition is also being able to express, understand, um, and your use of, it's got a lot of other aspects to it, but the foundation of cognition is memory. Okay, so anyway, so the idea that this AMK, a metabolite of melatonin, could actually be helpful in let's put you here. Yeah, could actually be helpful in working with people that are demented or having problems with cognition. The other major thing, there's two other things. Okay, so melatonin also is one of the most potent scavengers of the hydroxyl radical, which is, we've said many times, hydroxyl OH negative is a final biochemical byproduct that accumulates and causes damage to our bodies completely. So we've got two main mechanisms for eliminating it in our body, and one is melatonin. Okay, each melatonin molecule grabs 4 of those guys, takes them out. Okay. So that's the antioxidant. Okay, because OH negative is a powerful oxidant. Okay, but the other thing is that melatonin stimulates in the immune system. It's crazy. It's it's so when I think if you understand and you've heard and and you've seen it happen, and that is immunity decreases as you age. The two main reasons that your immunity decreases as you age is, number one, your thymus gland involutes. You don't make mature T cells anymore. Less until you're not making any. And secondly, melatonin. Because what does melatonin do? It stimulates the production of the progenitor cells that make granulocytes and macrophages. What does that mean? Okay, granulocytes are those guys that show up when there's something invades the body, immediately gobbles it up. The macrophages in the tissues doing the same thing. It's kind of like the Marines, right? And you've got different macrophages in different aspects of the body, different parts of the body, liver macrophages, brain macrophages. They all come from the bone marrow. They get into the blood vessels, and they're called monocytes. Mono meaning they just have one. Like the granulocytes can have multiple nuclei, whereas this is just one. So the monocyte, and then the monocyte is going through the blood vessel, and then it goes through the wall, extravasates through the wall into the tissue, liver. And then they call them Kupffer cells or astrocytes in the brain. So wherever they are, they're going to have a different name, but they're still macrophages, and they're doing that. What do macrophages do? They eat anything that's not supposed to be there. Gobble it up, number one. Number two, they take a piece of that and they show it to the just graduated from the University of Thymus T cell. That is a highly trained assassin, but doesn't yet have a target. And the macrophage says, here's your target. Okay. So you need that macrophage. The dendritic cells do the same thing, and they're also derived from the monocytes, which come. Okay, so we don't need. But the point is this: the melatonin stimulates those, right? And it stimulates the production of NK cells, natural killer cells. What? Yes, and it stimulates CD4 cells, right? Your T cells, T helper cells, right? It also stimulates the release of certain cytokines, important chemicals, from the natural killer cells and the T lymphocytes, right? That regulate the immune response, including the immune opioid network. And the immune opioid network, we got to talk about at some point, because we do that when we talk about methionine and enkephalin, right? For undoing the inhibition on the immune system by the tumor. The tumor microenvironment will inactivate the immune system. Okay, and methionine and enkephalin is that word tells you it's an opiate. That's one of the words for opiates, enkephalin. So the methionine and enkephalin, 5 amino acid. peptide, undoes all that stuff. Okay, so there is an immune opioid network, and melatonin has an effect on, and it kind of controls it. And it also controls the G protein AMP signaling pathway. Oh, what does all that mean? That just means you need melatonin. That's what it means. Okay. And then finally, if that wasn't enough for the melatonin, it also regulates intracellular glutathione production. So levels. So you think melatonin is important? Uh-huh. So we got to figure out, Logan, is how you're going to take it. You're gonna do your due diligence and find the good source. I don't know. They all think, so I think as a group, we're a big group. Why don't we start vetting different companies and start sharing? And let's come up with a list of the places that are safe today. And remember, next month, who knows? Elon might buy it. And if he buys it, or his buddy William Henry Gates III, or who don't know who's going to buy these things, or Van and Black, Van and Black, Black and Van. Yeah, those two big major companies that own everything. BlackRock and Vanguard. So anyway, let's do that. Let's do that for each other, okay? Because I can't do it all. Okay? Okay. Now, let's look at the next question. Detox, cleanse. This is Betsy. Can fenbendazole, the dewormer, get rid of worms in the brain? Okay. All right, Betsy. Yeah. The short answer is yes, and the long answer is yes. So anyway, yeah. So yeah, fenbendazole is in a group of drugs called benzimidazoles. And a subclass of the benzimidazoles are the benzodiazepines, which are Valium, Xanax. They don't cross the blood-brain. I mean, they cross the blood-brain barrier too. And in fact, they've used some of them to, like one, meclonazepam, was found to be useful for parasites in the brain. But and there's some people that are claiming that it's only the benzodiazepine of the benzimidazoles that can cross the blood-brain barrier. That's just not true. So, as a matter of fact, mebendazole, right? Mebendazole, which I like a lot because it also kills CFC stem cells. Mebendazole is okay. Now, remember the benzimidazoles. What do they do? How do they kill parasites? They stop the tubules so they can't move, they can't eat, they can't breathe, they can't do anything. But in our cell division, we need those microtubules to divide, and they're also part of the microskeleton, very important for function. Anyway, so vincristine, which is a chemotherapy, how does it work? It works by doing that, by stopping these microtubules from moving. Okay, and it's one of the standard drugs of treating brain tumors such as glioblastoma. Guess what? It turns out that mebendazole is better in studies. So mebendazole, in order to do that, it's going to have to cross that blood-brain barrier. Yeah. So it's actually better and more easily tolerated. Okay. And so they're now saying that it, in their studies, oncological literature, saying that they think that mebendazole can replace vincristine because it's not going to have the side effects. And we also know that albendazole, Al, he's a friend of mebendazole and fenbend, of meb and feb, fen. It's the metabolite of the albendazole, right? The albendazole sulfoxide, which is able to cross the blood-brain barrier. And they can find like 43% of the dose you took was in the cerebral spinal fluid, the fluid that surrounds the brain, right? So therefore it's been used to treat neurocysticercosis, cis, sister, wait, sister, neurocysticercosis, cysticercosis. You know, I don't know why they have to make these words like that, but they do. Anyway, what is that? Well, that's really tapeworm getting into your brain. So tapeworm will get into the brain, and that's what it is. And so they use albendazole for that. And but guess what else does? Yeah, that's right. The Joe Tippins molecule called fenbendazole crosses the blood-brain barrier effectively and treats intracranial parasites in dogs. And we're all pretty much the same in terms of our blood-brain barrier. Yeah. So it can get levels that will get it, because there's a dog tapeworm. In fact, this little dog tapeworm. So if you have a dog, make sure it's getting this stuff, and then you take it too, because this dog tapeworm in us produces these big cysts in our lungs and our livers. Hey, I don't know how long you guys TikTok were out, but I just noticed it. Got to keep my eye on that. Somebody just sent a gift. What is a gift? What does that mean, a gift? If you get a gift. I've seen that before, that I got gifts, but I don't know what they are. I never saw the gift. You mean like somebody sent me a watch, or somebody sent me a tie, which I wouldn't wear. So don't send me. Oh, I've been in the room the whole time. Okay, weird, because I had to do this. Great, thank you. Anyway, so they treat dogs with the fenbendazole for parasites in the brain, and so. Now, by the way, when we do parasite, when we want to get rid of parasites, we know that we've got all sorts of parasites. So we don't just use one antiparasitic. We use several that get the worms, which are called antihelminthics, which always have to include at least one benzimidazole. But we also want to get the protozoa, right? The single cell organisms. So we use tinidazole or nitazoxanide. So the good news is this nitazoxanide, the pharmacokinetics preventing it from doing its job in the brain. Why am I so tired? Okay. Now, this is Samuel. Is it possible to do your juicing program even if I have a stoma? I've heard that the fiber in fruits and vegetables can block the bowels. I want to do your program, but this concerns me. Okay. So, Samuel, sometimes there's a confusion between of what juice is. Okay. So if you get a juicer, it's not a blender. You're not blending stuff. When you blend something, when you blend vegetables or fruit or stuff, you're making a soup. Blended soups. So in people that eat raw food, uncooked food, will have blended soups. A juice is an extractor. It extracts out all the fiber. Okay, so there is no, what is the word you use? Fiber, yeah. There's no fiber. And remember, you're not going to use a lot of fruit. You're going to just use enough fruit to make it delicious, but that's not the main part of the juice cleanse. Main part are the vegetables. So there's no way it can do what what you've heard. Now, on the other hand, okay, so no, it's not going to bother you. It's not, if you got a juicer, you're going to take out the fiber. There's no fiber or very little. So that won't be a problem. However, this might prevent you from eating plants because you're going to think, well, if I eat vegetables, I'm going to get fiber and stuff like that. Okay, now, your body actually needs fiber to live. Okay. We need both soluble and insoluble fibers. Now, if you've got a stoma in the colon, then you still have some function of the colon, which is helpful. If the stoma is coming out like at your small intestines, like your ileum, and you're not getting the effect, you're not getting the benefit of the large intestine, the colon, then one thing you need to take orally are some short chain fatty acids, because short chain fatty acids, which are essential to health, are made by colonic bacteria. It's their action on what we call soluble fiber. Okay. Insoluble fiber is like cellulose. Soluble fiber is like the like chia seeds and are mucilaginous. You put water on them, they get this like they get sticky and clump together. That's soluble fiber. All right, so that gets metabolized by colonic bacteria into short chain fatty acids that we need, such as butyric acid, butyrate, which is essential for life. So therefore, if your stoma's in your ileum, you need to make sure, or higher up. I can't imagine the higher up. Then you need to be taking short chain fatty acids. Now, so now when you're eating, so here's the thing, I don't want you to not eat vegetables because they're going to have fiber. You need fiber, number one. Number two, eating, okay, so eating means you have to chew it well. Chewing it well means that you're not going to have big, now I don't, I might as well have been born like a dog or a lizard or a snake. I got to learn to chew. But anyway, other people have less of a chewing problem than I do, but they're still not chewing enough. And if you don't chew enough, you're not going to break it up. And then I could see that you're going to wind up with big masses of fiber that's could plug up your stoma. Now, so chewing, very, very important. And the reason that's not a problem if you're not eating plants is because they don't have any fiber. They don't have any like processed stuff. Yeah. Anyway, so the other thing you're going to take is you're going to take hydrochloric acid like 10-15 minutes before you eat. A couple pills of hydrochloric acid, which is betaine hydrochloric acid, pepsin hydrochloric acid, because that's what your stomach normally makes. And when we're ill, we don't make as much. And when we get over 40, we don't make as much. And we need it to process all kinds of aspects of eating. And then after you're done eating, you're going to take like a handful of digestive enzymes, like a handful of digestive enzymes. Good. You've got to digest. You've got to be able to break this down. So you've chewed really well because you chewed like what, 30 times? What is it, 20, 30 times? Mix it with saliva, swallowed it, and you'd already have an acidic stomach, which processes it nicely. And then at the end, you're going to take a bunch of enzymes. What kind of enzymes? I recommend a company called Transformation. I don't work with anybody. I'm not affiliated with anybody. It's just what I use. Okay, and I give it to the people that come to me for help. Transformation, and they have one that's called Digestzyme, which is specifically for people that eat lots of vegetables, like I don't know, vegetarians, vegans who eat lots of vegetables. Yeah, because why? Because it's got a ton of cellulase, breaks down cellulose. So take that. So you've chewed well, taken the, and now you've taken a lot of those guys, and you're going to have not a problem because you got to eat plants and fruit because that's what you are. That's what humans are, by the way. And you can't get angry at me. If you're angry at Andy, get angry at God. God made it that way. I didn't. Ovarian CFCs. This is Anjali. I need help. My CA markers are very high in the past 9 months of completion of treatment. What does that tell you guys? Where is the? Hold on a second. Where is that? Huh? Where is that? I don't know. No water. Okay. Anyway, in completion of treatment. Now listen. Let's listen to this question. Okay. Let's listen to this question. This question just said, this Anjali is saying that the CA markers are very high in just 9 months of completion of treatment. What does that say? You know what that says. Anjali, you know what that says. I hope you know what that says. I hope you understand that the completion of your treatment, it means that you got to look at the treatment. Okay. They will divert your attention away from it and say, oh, this is a very aggressive tumor. And in spite of the fact that we treated it, it got small. It got smaller and it but it's coming back. Well, no. The truth is, Anjali and everybody, and you all probably know this, hopefully. And I've got to do a talk on this. And that is that and I'll make this up. I don't make this up. This is just in the literature. When you take high dose, maximum tolerated chemotherapy, it stimulates, enhances every one of the 6 steps necessary for successful metastasis. Period. If you're lucky, it'll shrink the primary, right? Which is probably what happened. Looks good, great. Oh, 9 months later, what's happening? These markers are coming up. These markers could, in your case, mean that the the little micrometastases are starting to get more active. Right? So anyway, just to let you know that. Okay. So you're waiting for another scan since the last one did not show anything. Okay. I don't want to do any more chemo or surgery. Looking for alternative methods to heal myself. I'd love to come to Thailand, but not sure if it would be feasible. Any advice would be appreciated. Sure, absolutely, Anjali. My pleasure. First of all, you don't have to. You don't have to. This Thailand thing is up in the air. Sadly. Anyway, Oasis of Healing is not up in the air. It's on the ground in Arizona. Now, but Anjali, first of all, I hope you have gone to a real biological dentist and taken care of that. Otherwise, you must go now, tomorrow morning, when you wake up. Find a biological dentist, um, a real biological dentist, certified by IAOMT. Yeah, IAOMT, certified, not just a member. And then you hopefully did a parasite cleanse. And if you did, you probably might have helped yourself. And so, what I want to tell you is that there are absolutely most of the anti-worm, anti-helminthics are active against specifically ovarian CFCs, all CFCs. But they did studies on ovarian just to show you. And what did they find? They found that with ovarian specifically, that the ivermectin, had a direct effect on ovarian. It does on all of them, but I'm just saying there was research that showed ivermectin. It also showed that mebendazole also had a direct effect on ovarian, suppressing them. So did artemisinin. Artemisinin is comes from the wormwood tree, and it's it's a treatment for malaria now, and it's also used in CFCs. And probably the major one of all the anti-parasitics that affects ovarian, excuse me, is niclosamide. Okay, so niclosamide is amazing, but it works so well with ovarian that it actually is being considered as a part of the first line treatment by conventional people. Now you can go to niclosam, NICLOSAM.com, and order some. It comes from what's that? It's a country. I always forget the name. I always forget the name of that country. Anyway, it comes from that country. What is that country? Anybody know? All right. So, I don't know. What is that country? Gosh. There we are. Okay. So, let's put this here. Wait. I'm just adjusting something here so that I can feel like I'm in a cockpit of something. There I. And how do I? There's no. There's no. I lost what? Anyway, I don't know what I. Yeah, I think they have fun. They like to mess with me because they know that I don't get it. Uh-huh. Can we go back here? Okay, so yeah. All right, so specifically, niclosamide is really like a big deal with ovarian, and it's a big deal with all of them. And all of these I just mentioned, ivermectin, mebendazole, niclosamide, all also get the CFC stem cells. Yeah, yeah. So after you've done your parasite cleanse, which is probably 12 cycles of 3 weeks on, 1 week off, then you're gonna take lower doses as a maintenance dose, right? Now, and the way they do it, the way these things work is that they induce apoptosis. Apoptosis is programmed cellular death, where cells normally turnover. Remember, we make 37 million new cells per second. And in order to do that, we got to get rid of 37 million new cells per second. Otherwise, we're going to wind up too big. Yeah. So the way we do that is called apoptosis or apoptosis. Tomato. And that is a programmed way of our body taking a cell and recycling it, instead of, if it's killed, then it spills out all of its stuff, and it's called necrosis, and it's a mess, and it's can cause problems. Whereas apoptosis is not. So one of the things that these antihelminthics do is they stimulate these CFCs to go through apoptosis, right? They also block them from dividing. They can't divide. If they can't divide, they can't grow. Right? And then they block many of the signaling pathways, right? The signaling pathways that are necessary for growth and for spreading metastasis. And then finally, if that weren't enough, they also modulate the immune system. So anyway, so now that was so I would, Anjali, I would get started on that, but you got to cleanse, you got to do colonics, you got to do all the things we talk about, and you got to get a hold of these peptides, thymosin alpha 1, and you've got to get a hold of the methionine and kefalin. You've got to get a hold of these things. You've got to get a hold of these things. You've got to start using them. All right. You got to get rid of the source. That means detoxification. And then you got to stimulate and wake up and reawaken the immune system. That's a big deal. And then to get rid of some of this, the existing tumors, there are lots of things: intravenous, vitamin C, intravenous ozone, intravenous artesunate, which is artemisinin, and these antihelminthics, right? The ivermectin, the mebendazole, niclosamide, also the artemisinin, which you said, and there's other things, dichloroacetate. There's all dichloroacetate. So I hope, Anjali, that you've joined the CFC group, because we're going to get into all this stuff in more, in usable detail. I can't spend too much time on it here. So now let's go to the next person. This person is Melanie. And she says, long-term consequences of cryosurgery for breast CFC tumor. That's a good question. That's a good question, because again, the research shows very good. Now cryosurgery, but if everybody, just for your knowledge, is cryo means cold. You remember the cryo? What is that? In movies where they go on long space travel, cryotherapy. I don't know what they call it. They put them to sleep in by freezing them. Oh, excuse me. Anyway, so they've used argon, helium, oxygen, and nitrogen. Pretty much are what they've used for cryotherapy, and the reason is because they're, like, in their liquid form, are very, very cold, right? Like minus 195, minus 296, minus 185, minus 182. These things are cold. Centigrade, minus. Okay. So now, where is it used? A lot of time, breast, of course, thyroid, and pretty much any tumor you can reach. And what it is a needle is put in to the tumor, and it's injected the liquid. So what they use mostly now is either liquid nitrogen or that's pretty much it, because the liquid nitrogen is, they also use liquid helium, right? But it's because, the other ones, there's problems with using them and all that. So the main ones they use now are helium and nitrogen, and mostly liquid nitrogen. And so they would put the needle into the tumor and they'll inject the liquid nitrogen and it completely freezes it and shuts it off, right? Now, it always, I mean, it depends. Okay, I think it really depends on the surgeon doing it, their experience, um, the their track record, how frequently they do it. If you're going to have any kind of procedure done by anybody, make sure that they do this procedure every week, several times, right? It's not something that they were trained in and they know how to do it, but they really do other things most of the time. That's not the person you want, right? And I don't care how famous or whatever the person is, if they don't do that particular procedure that you are requiring, if they don't do it often, then you don't want them. Okay? So, I mean, that's what it is. So, in my exposure to this cryotherapy, it's been fairly mixed. It works well if done correctly, and it can cause terrible problems if not done correctly. So that's why it's so important that you know who's doing it, what their record is. And with any surgeon for anything or anybody that's going to do something to your body, make sure you like them. Make sure they're, I mean, first of all, they're good at it. Some people think that it doesn't matter if I like him or not. I mean, if he can do the job. But you got to remember that the energy of other people affects us. We are, 90% of human communication is nonverbal. And we're greatly affected by other people's energy. Greatly affected by other people's energy. Yeah, you know that. You know that. Have you ever oh, not me. Oh, am I going to get in trouble for this one? But anyway, any men out there ever ask their girlfriend or wife, what's wrong? And they say, nothing. And do men, hey, ladies, do men do that? I've never, I don't know. I don't know because I've never been with a man. So I don't know. Do men do that? But as far as I know that, but I've never had actually, if I had, no, I take that back. My apologies. Men do that, even to other men in like romantic things, of course. But yeah, I've had men do that. Anyway. My point is that silence, that non-communication, is very loud. It can be louder than screaming. Right? So nonverbal communication is major. Okay, and so if you're with someone, for example, it's just like if you have a chef that's making your food and they hate you. Even let's say they're making it fine, they're not putting anything bad in there. The energy that goes into there, because we all know Emoto, right? We know Emoto, right? The guy that used water, right? He froze the water and then showed the molecules, the fantastic, beautiful structures that of the molecules, right? If you put the word love, the word health, healing, versus the word hate, I hate or ugly or any negative words and music, all these things affect. Remember, we're mostly water, right? Of all the elements, you'd have to say it's the most, 70%. So by the way, on YouTube and all that, am I still, because I don't see any Lithuania, there you go. Thank you. Hey, see, that's the thing. I can't, let me bring this down here. That was the country. That was the country, you guys, for the niclosamide. Wait. How come I can't move this? Huh? Suffered for 40 years with men like that. Okay, Margie Smith, thank you. There are guys like that. I know. Just as I remembered as I was talking, uh, I've had guys like that as friends. In fact, recently, this one guy uh, involved with work became super silent, took himself off all the chats, and won't talk. Well, wait a minute. If there's a problem, let's talk about it. And so you're right, absolutely. How come I can't? Nyclo my thank you. That's great. Okay, Nyclo Sam is in Lithuania. Okay, yeah. You see, I got to be watching you guys. You guys know what's happening. Okay, so so my answer to this question about cryotherapy is I think it's potentially fantastic. I think it can replace a lot of invasive surgical procedures. I think the potential is fantastic. They also do something called radio frequency ablation. If you have a good when I say good, I mean knowledgeable and skillful and does it all the time. Interventional radiologist, then they can do what's radio frequency ablation. So they use radio frequencies, and we used to have a lot of fantastic results in Arizona when I had an interventional radiologist who would do that with liver lesions and lung. Now with the radio frequency, it had to be below 3 or 4 centimeters. I don't remember. Otherwise, it was bigger than it could. It just didn't work. Number one. Number two, you want to make sure it wasn't near any vessel because you don't want to just cause bleeding. Now, but the cryo, I think, is a really, really potentially amazing way to go. So if you find the right person, okay, and make sure that person is they were trained, and you got to, if you got to talk to them, say, hey, I need to talk to you before I let you do something to me. So I want an appointment with you, and I got to ask you some questions, okay? I know he's a very busy surgeon. He doesn't have time. Well, he doesn't have time. Then he shouldn't do his job. He has to have time for his patients. All right. So, or just say, hey, how many times do you do this procedure a week? Got to know that. All right. In fact, that really good interventional radiologist I was telling you about, he was based at a hospital. He had a PA, physician's assistant, who did his what's it, port placements? Anyway, he did his port placements and other things, but this guy, his PA that did that every day, 8, 10 a day. So who do you think I'm going to go to? The radiologist who's really good at RFA, radio frequency ablation, or am I going to go to the PA? Okay, so that's what you got to remember. Okay, just this is common sense. Suppose you are going to take a flight from Florida to Maine, Florida or Maine, or New York to California, whatever, and you found out that the pilot was like what do you call it, a Top Gun in the Air Force and all that. And after the Air Force, he went into commercial flying, and he was a good pilot and flew all that. But he's been out of work for 10 years. He just came back. It's his first day on the job. You want to get in that plane? Okay. So we have to learn to do is apply common sense to medical stuff, because for some reason, when it's medical, we lose our common sense and we go, okay, all right. Now, let's look at another question here. Are we? Yeah, we got time. Wait, where is it? There we go. And there we go. And I almost know what I'm doing. This is Tanya. I had a double mastectomy and lymph node removal in March before I found you. Of course, I regret that now. I regret that now. Stop. I know, but don't. We'll talk about that. I found you when you interviewed with Chris Wark. I am not doing the traditional treatment. Stop right there. Anybody there? Can anybody help me? What am I going to say? Real question here. Is the Wormer antiprotozoal protocol different for CFCs than for parasite cleansing? No, because you want to get rid. Parasites can be producing the CFC. And you want to get rid of the parasites. So no, not different. No difference. You got to do both. You got to do anti-parasite and anti-protozoal and antifungal. Okay. So anyway, what am I going to say to Tanya here? I want to see if you guys how well you know this stuff. What am I going to say? Anybody know? Oh, you guys are having your own conversations. Okay, all right. So you guys are lost in that thing. That's cool. I'm glad. Great. Anyway, so let me answer the question. Let me get back to you, Tanya. And that is, you said, I am not. Okay, I found you when I interviewed with when you interviewed with Chris Wark, and I'm not doing the traditional treatment. So I want to just clarify the word. Traditional means it has stood the test of time. It's by tradition. So this would mean Ayurvedic. This would mean traditional Chinese medicine. This would mean traditional Thai medicine, traditional, most of the African nations, if not all, South American nations, European nations, they all have traditional medicine. All right. So now when we think of allopathic medicine, right, the MDs, mythology doctors, it all began pretty much in 1910. It began before that. By the way, it's the MDs. They weren't called MDs in those days. That actually killed George Washington from one of the procedures they had. One of the procedures they had back in those days. If you got sick, they just it was called bloodletting. So I think they let a little bit too much blood out of this guy. Anyway, the allopaths have always been like, anyway, so. But so they 1910 till now. So, or even if it was, let's say, I think the AMA started in 1856. It was formed in whatever, 57. Okay, that is not a long time compared to 5,000 years of traditional Chinese Ayurvedic. Okay, those are traditional. Chief Rolling Thunder is traditional. What we do, this stuff is called conventional. And conventional means by convention, and convention also means by agreement. So it's medicine by agreement, not by science. Traditional medicine is by long-term. The only reason they're still doing what they do in TCM, traditional Chinese medicine, is because it works. Ayurvedic, because it works. How long has it worked? Thousands of years. Does that substitute for a clinical trial? Big time. Big time. So anyway, so you're not doing traditional, you're trying to fast at least 18 hours. Good. Take the word trying out, okay? No more trying. Because remember, trying means not. Raw food salad, sprouted oats with flax, chia, blueberry every day. I tried powdered sodium ascorbate, but after, tried, it says no. After 2 weeks, it developed severe heartburn. Tried DHL, Pepsid, no relief until stopped also. I can only afford IV vitamin C once a week and hyperbaric once a week. Stopped ozone as my veins. Wow. Okay, Tanya. You bring up a lot of very good points here. I'm glad you're asking these questions. First of all, I hope you did a biological dentist, Tanya. I hope you went to a good biological dentist. You have to have gone to a and if you haven't, you have to. You have to. That's number one. Have you done a cleanse? Have you drank only fresh juices, 3-4 quarts a day without eating, and done this for a minimum of 3 weeks? 8 weeks is better. Okay, to get rid of all not even all of it, right? And then we need to be doing even oral chelation to get rid of the heavy metals we're being exposed to, right? We need lymphatic therapy. We have to be getting our lymphatics moving, right? And colon hydrotherapy. Okay, those are all very, very important. Now, after you do 3 to 8 weeks of fresh vegetable with juice with fruit to make it delicious, it's got to be delicious. Because during that time you don't have to do the 18-6. You just drink all day and stop around 5, so you're not up going to the bathroom all night. And then, but when you stop it and you go back to eating, then you'll be 18 hours between last meal and first meal. 3 to 5 hours before sleep, you stop eating and you go to sleep by 9 latest. So, you got to more than a salad with all those things in it. You got to have chia porridge, flaxseed, smoothies, 60% of your diet's got to be high quality fat, like chia, flax, pumpkin seeds, all kinds of seeds, all kinds of nuts, all kinds of nut butters, seed butters, avocado, coconut oil, things like that. For multiple reasons that we will discuss, and I'm sure we have already too. All right, so you got to be doing that, and you're doing that, and you're the uncooked food. You're going to be having it all the time because you're going to make it delicious, so that there's no way you wouldn't eat it. Now the sodium ascorbate powdered. If you got heartburn for severe heartburn, I'm not sure what you did. I hope you weren't taking the powder by itself. You're putting it in water and sipping it slowly. But anyway, if it becomes a problem, then you need to get sodium ascorbate, liposomal sodium ascorbate, liposomal sodium ascorbate. There's not a lot of them. There's a lot of liposomal ascorbic acid, but not a lot of liposomal sodium ascorbate. Find that, and you can take. It usually comes in 1,000 milligram packets like this here. This is one from Japan, and you just rip it off. Anyway, so, and you can take 2 of those 4 times a day because your body's going to absorb it through the lymphatic instead of through the duodenum, the small intestines. All right, so that's what you can do. Try DHL. I don't know what that is. Pepsid. Why would you try Pepsid? Oh, for your heartburn. I got it. So now you should be taking vitamin C. All that you got to have your. So how do you know you're taking enough vitamin C? You get a fasting ascorbate level, and you find out that it is 50 millimoles per liter, or if you divide 50 by 18. What is it? Whatever that is, that would be milligrams per deciliter. Anybody got a calculator? Divide 50 by 18, and you got what? Someone help me out here. I can't use my calculator because my two phones are being used for TikTok and oh well. I don't see it. Anyway, that's the number you need for milligrams per deciliter. Then you know you have enough ascorbate for your physiological requirements. Then when you get that IV, it will go all, instead of filling up a deficit, it'll go all the way up to reach the target dose, which is 350 milligrams per deciliter of ascorbate in the plasma. All right, 2.7, thank you. Yay. All right, so 2.7 milligrams per deciliter is what you need on your fasting ascorbate level. That means you've got enough. You're managing all your physiological requirements. And when I do this thing on vitamin C, well, I'm going to do a complete webinar on vitamin C, and you're going to say, "Whoa!" Like everybody does. It blows me away. I mean, so. And what else? You got to be making the uncooked food delicious. And yeah, to do hyperbarics once a week is not really save your money. If you can't do it daily for a while, it's not going to do that much. I mean, it's never hurt you, but it's not going to do much. It's probably costing more than it. You could spend that money more wisely. So if you can get a pick line, yes, absolutely. Get the pick line. All right. It's 2.78. Okay. Excellent. Thank you, guys. So, all right. And okay. Now, let's go to the next question. So I hope you got it. You got to do all the way, okay? And you got to take the word trying out, and you got to start doing these things all the way, okay? And you're going to be eating uncooked food, and you're going to be eating it only, and you're going to make it delicious. You got to find out how to make it delicious. You got to go online. You got to read books. You got to find out, find a raw chef and make it delicious. Otherwise, it won't work. And you had a double mastectomy, so you need a lot of these antioxidants. Now this is Arena. 70-year-old, my MRI in 2023 showed a 1.9 centimeter irregular mass with mixed plateau and persistent type delayed enhancement kinetics. Right breast. My ultrasound shows stable. Okay, so can you recommend any naturopathic oncologists in California? Irina. I don't know, because California has such horrible rules about taking people's licenses away for doing that. I know of an excellent guy, a medical doctor in San Diego, Dr. Jurgen Winkler. Excellent. I don't know what he knows about. Nobody knows about diet for some reason. Not many people. So, when you go to these guys, so you got to stay connected so that I can somehow remind you about what certain things, like eating. They don't talk about all these things. They don't look. Most doctors you go to are interventionalists. They give you treatments, and they have you take supplements and stuff. But Dr. Winkler is really a very smart guy. But he doesn't. There's certain things he doesn't talk about. One would be food. That doesn't matter. You're going to already know that. But he's one guy in San Diego. But what I would do to find a naturopath, if you're looking for one, is I would go to what's wrong with my brain today? What is the name of that school? What's the naturopathic school that's really well known in Oregon? Bastyr. I would go to Bastyr and go on their website or call them and just say, is there any that they would, any graduates of their school, of their program, who were specialized in oncology, and are they in California? That would be the best way. And Bastyr even opened up a satellite or second naturopathic college in San Diego. But I would call the original one in Oregon. They're very good. Very good. So, all right. So, whatever that mass is. So you didn't. I hopefully, Irina, that sounds like you didn't let them biopsy it, which is great. Don't put a name on it. Wait. And there's no metastasis. Well, how do we know it's what it is? I mean, I don't have enough information from you here, but I don't know if you they biopsied it, if they messed with it like that. Did they? My favorite book on that bookshelf. I can't tell you the favorite. The works of Thomas Vaughan are incredible, but that's alchemy. Most people wouldn't be interested in it. Book of Secrets, Osha, the Vedas are like incredible. Power Now is good if you have never knew that stuff. He's like one of the guys that helped bring this information to the West. He did a good job. I mean, there are so many there. Here's another one. There's a good one. Here, there's a great book if you're confused about here. It's by Jonathan Foer. It's called Eating Animals. It's pretty good, very good book. Yeah. Nutritional Biochemistry. I mean, it's a good resource. It's a great book. And then this one here is a great resource, Gabby, Nutritional Medicine. These guys. So to get you look up a substance and you get the research. I mean, this stuff is science. Plant Intelligence. Now this here, Wildlife, a great book by Cindy Engel. She's a biologist. Wonderful book because it, what animals do to be healthy and what we can learn from them, I think is her tagline. And yeah, Bastyr is in Washington. Sorry, it's not in Oregon, Washington. What I like about Bastyr is that they were very, they do really good, careful research, and yeah, very, very good. But what wild animals do to stay healthy, and it's an amazing book. I mean, I learned from reading that. I didn't realize that animals like to get high too, not just humans. Yeah, that elephants, they have this respect for the elders. So the elders are in the back, and so they can smell when an orchard is starting to ferment, and they know when they need to arrive where the fermentation has produced enough alcohol. And they do it so that when the tribe, or what did they call them? What did they call the group of brothers? Herd of elephants. When they arrive, the younger ones up front get some, but it's not as strong. The guys in the back are going to get the most, and they get the most drunk. And I guess when they're drunk in the forest, in the jungle, their trunks they're slapping trees and stuff, and it's supposed to be a pretty funny sight. And other animals do too. So interesting, right? But a very good book from a biologist. It's a very good book. So there's lots of. It's hard to say, but my favorites are always non-medical. They have to do with that other part. The driver of the car. That's the one I'm interested in. Driver of the car. You Are the Placebo. Good book. Joe Dispenza, of course, is good. But you got to know alchemy. You got to appreciate alchemy. There's an ancient book. I don't know if you get. There's ones in here that you can't see, that are smaller. That are. And Shelton. I mean, Health for All. Shelton is like ridiculous. This guy's like he. I think I am him incarnated. There's so many. Yeah. By the way, get books, because we will not have. Oh, okay, good. Alexander attended in San Diego. I was going to. Did I give the first one? I think I gave the first one lecture in San Diego, one on integrative oncology. I didn't give the second part. Yeah, I was in the. I think we didn't have enough time to finish. Anyway, I don't know if we're going to always have access to this unless we have certain kinds of digital connections that allow us to get connected. And even if we do, what we're reading and seeing might not be exactly what was originally there. I don't know. So therefore, get books. Read books. Forget the stuff. E-books and all that. I mean, you might want to get an e-book while you're waiting for the hard book to arrive. But you got to have that. All right, you guys. So Sawadee Kap. Now, you got, I didn't get to him again. So, Koto, Bendai Medai. Jing Jing, Bendai Medai. In other words, it's not possible to do them all. And can you reverse AFib? Yes, go to a biological dentist first. Make sure. Go to a biological, especially if you had your wisdom teeth taken out years and years ago. Go to a biological dentist first. Get a 3D cone beam CT. And AFib. I'm telling you. So anyway, you guys, Sawadee Kap, Kapun Makap, and I'll see you tomorrow if you're going to be on the tomorrow the Parasite group or the CFC group. I think it's the Parasite group. Yeah, tomorrow's the Parasite group, and then Thursday will be my Thursday. Your Wednesday will be CFC group. Okay, and then next Sunday. Yeah. Okay, Sawadee Kap. Bye-bye.